The wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who of course was the wrongfully deported man that is now sitting in that torture prison in El Salvador, his wife, Jennifer, has now had to go into hiding with their 3 children because Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security decided to dox her in an attempt to further smear Abrego Garcia as some kind of hardened, horrible criminal that needs to be denied his constitutional rights. Here is what Jennifer had to say. I don't feel safe when the government posts my address, the house where my family lives, for everyone to see, especially when this case has gone viral and people have all sorts of opinions. So this is definitely a bit terrifying. I'm scared for my kids. So why did Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security post her information online? Because what they did was they went all the way back to 2021. So 4 years ago, when Jennifer had, of course, sought a protective order against Kilmar. And she did that because at that time, they were having a lot of stress. They were raising special needs children, she says. They were having financial problems. He had just been arrested by immigration authorities, even though, of course, he was under a, do not deport order. So it was stressful. It was hectic, she says. And he struck her while they were sitting in their vehicle. She said this was the only time it happened. Never happened before that. Never happened since then either. He has grown. He's become a better man. We've learned how to work out stress and all that. But at the time, she did, of course, seek a protective order, which she then dropped less than a month later. But because she had sought that order, the Department of Homeland Security went out there and said, this is great. Let's post this without redacting her address so that everybody can see what a piece of garbage this man is, right? So they posted it on social media to their 2.6 million followers, and it had their address right there. And when asked about this, when, the Independent over in the UK who reported on this, they reached out to Homeland Security and said, why would you do this? Why would you put her information out there? And DHS said, quote, these are public documents that anyone could get access to. They defended it. And they almost seemed to brag about it. Anyone could have looked this up. Yeah, if you actually have the knowledge on how to, navigate through court records. Sometimes it actually requires a subscription in order to do that, depending on the state, depending on how you're accessing them. So no, this is not something that every single person in this country has access to, nor is it something that most people in this country would even think about doing. Not to mention the fact that all you had to do was black out the name. You're the federal government. Y'all know how to black out crap all day long. You didn't have to include that part. You chose to include that part to target this man's family. They are now in hiding. They are in protective custody because they are terrified of what these lunatic MAGA weirdos are going to do to them now that they have their address. And honestly, I can't blame them for that. That is terrifying for them. And again, she did say, it happened, yes. He's gotten better. We know how to work through our things. And that's great if that's true. But listen, nobody is, and she also said, obviously, he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And here's the thing. Nobody out there is saying that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a saint, that we need to bring him back because he was basically the Pope incarnate, right? No, all we're saying is that if you want to send somebody out of this country, they are entitled to due process. You have to follow the law, which you clearly did not. That is what we're saying. And it's real easy to do. You're paying President Bukele down there in El Salvador millions of dollars. Call him up and say, if you don't send that man back right this minute, no more money. None. But you won't do that because this is the hill your administration has chosen to die on for some reason. You could have put an end to this at the very beginning before it even went to court. And by the way, yes, in court, his administration freely, fully admitted we deported him in error. At that moment, if you'd have just brought him back, nobody would know his name. Everybody would have moved on to the next outrage of this administration that is definitely going to come every 12 hours. It's what you do. You dug in. You're smearing this man, and you are setting yourself up. Caroline Leavitt and Stephen Miller called him a wife beater. You guys are setting yourselves up for the largest defamation lawsuit that anyone in this country has ever filed. And I hope the second he gets back to this country, he files it against each and every individual member of this administration that ever dared to utter his name. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.